All right, we're live. So I was going to do semaglutide today. I was doing a podcast the other day, and my video card melted. Super fun. So I should be back today. Get that fixed. We'll go over semaglutide tomorrow on Friday. If you guys have any questions about semaglutide, send it to us. Questions at chalmerswellness.com or drop them in the comments here. I'll take a look at them. There's a lot of information on semaglutide, so we'll go over that tomorrow. It'll be lots of fun. You guys share that one. So today I want to talk about hormone tracking. Tracking is a big thing. So like when we put our goals together, we not only put our goals together, we make it trackable, and then we find a way that we can measure how well we're doing on that goal list. And so we track it. One of the things we're going to start doing here, and if you guys are doing hormones on your own, great idea. Start jotting this down as well. So the way we're doing ours, and it's in the sheet out to all my hormone people later this week, is we're doing a pros and the cons type of thing. And you want to list out everything that's going on. So, let's talk about testosterone specifically, men and women. So you want to go with, energy, and don't just put energy down plus or minus. So kind of go through it and be like, okay, how's your energy throughout the day? At 10, at noon, at 3 p.m., at 5 p.m., at 7 p.m. How do you feel? How's your energy? You can also, whenever you're doing an energy journal, you also want to kind of notate how much stuff did you do? Because if you're like, man, I am really exhausted at 3 o'clock every day, and you look at what you do and you're like, oh, you did 2 days worth of work in 7 hours, you should be tired. You want to factor that piece in. You want to make sure that you're not just overexerting yourself, but kind of track it throughout the day and see how you're doing. One of the other things that you want to do is you want to track mental clarity. How's your mind work throughout the day? How clear are you? How easy is this for you to think? How much ADD do you have? That type of thing. Sex drive, obviously, is a big one. And then sexual function. So orgasm function, erection function, that type of thing. Testosterone really increases orgasm function in women. And so you definitely want to kind of notate that one down. And so you kind of know where you are on those. Strength in the gym. If you're going to the gym and you're like, oh man, I feel so much stronger now. Like it's just like I feel like I'm just better. Yeah, write that down and kind of notate, emotionally how you're feeling about it as well. Like, I got the 12. I felt awesome about it. I was tired when I got to the gym, but 10 minutes in, I felt awesome. Like write that stuff down. You want to know kind of how you're doing. Okay. Any of the other stuff like, hey, I'm not sore anymore. My weights are going up. My muscles are getting bigger. I'm losing the fat, like that type of thing. Like all those type of things, like how you look, how you feel about how you look, how you feel in general, emotional stability, that type of thing. Like, man, I'm more emotional, but I like it because it colors my life more. Or, I have more energy and I'm more calm and I'm more relaxed and everything's just better. Write all that stuff down. But also write down any of the negative stuff. So if you're noticing that you're losing your hair, women, you guys brush your hair at least once or twice a week. So look at the brush, look at the comb. Like, are you losing more hair? I have women who tell me that they're growing more hair because of all the things we're doing. They're like, I thought I was supposed to lose hair, and I'm gaining hair. Well, that's the thing as well. So check the hair on your head. Make sure that that's where it's supposed to be. If you start noticing it's getting thinner, notate that down. Because it's definitely something you want to talk to you about with whoever your provider is, or if you don't have a provider, find somebody who knows what they're doing and talk to them about it. And then make sure that your facial hair darkening, hair on the body, extra oil, extra acne, extra any of that type of stuff. Notate that down. The more important things are you getting headaches? Are you getting, does it feel like the pressures in your head is higher? Are you getting, anything like that? Any numbness or tingling or anything like that? Because the only real issue you come in contact with testosterone from a health standpoint is it can increase your hemoglobin hematocrit levels, and that can increase the pressure inside. So heart attack and stroke, that's the only place heart attack and stroke comes from. So notate that down. Make sure that you've got that information so you can give it to your healthcare provider and see if they have any issues there. Drawing blood every 3 to 4 months is going to be the easiest way to check that H&H. There's a lot of people who have their H&H too high and they never know it. And so pulling blood's a great idea on that one. But write all these down, because what ends up happening is, you might have to sit down and be like, okay, look, as a woman, we're getting a little bit of facial hair darkening. The hair on your face isn't growing more, it's just darkening. And that's obviously something that, not every woman loves. So look at it and then kind of look at okay, orgasm function is amazing, mental clarity is awesome, energy is awesome, muscle growth is awesome, but I'm meaning this facial hair darkening. There's sometimes we can do some stuff about that, but a lot of times it's like drop the dose down. And so what you're gonna have to figure out is facial hair darkening is not really life altering. Like you're not gonna die. So kind of take a look at it and be like, do I want all the positives? Because if we bring it down, you have to just assume you're gonna bring everything down. And if you're like, is it willing to give up some of the mental clarity? Is it willing to give up some of the energy? Is it willing to give up are you willing to give up some of the orgasm function to have a little bit less facial hair? Like when I talk to women about this, they're like, I'll just shave, or I'll get laser hair removal, or I'll get microderm, or whatever else they'd rather do, because they're like, no. I like the upsides a lot. My husband and I, we're very big fans of the upside. And so we'll just do something over here. Fantastic. I actually had a lady who, she said, I think I'm losing the hair on my head. And I was like, well, okay, so we can start toning it down. And I was like, here's the recommendations I would make for your doc. And she's like, oh, no, it's fine. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, oh, I don't care. She said, I wear wigs. And so I was like, all right, well, if you don't care, it doesn't matter then. So it just kind of depends on the person. Now, here's the reason you want to track this stuff. Because if you're like, hey, I'm a 10 and all the good stuff, but I'm starting to see some issues I don't like, we can drop you down a little bit and you might stay at that 8, 9, 10 range on the good stuff, but you might be able to drop down some of the negative stuff and just kind of calm that down a little bit. The thing people don't seem to talk about much is that you're not a machine, or we don't come off an assembly line. And so, for women, 100 testosterone levels might be, not enough for you and the perfect number for somebody else. Somebody else might need to be at 150 or 200 to be where they're perfect. So you can't always go on the numbers, but if you talk to your patient, you go, how do you feel? Like, have you charted this stuff? Are you watching what's happening? And if they're like, look, because I hear this more often than not, they're like, look, I have no side effects and I like what we're going, but I feel like I'm halfway there. Well, all right, you might not have the same sensitivity that somebody else has. So you might be able to come up a little bit as long as you're monitoring all those things. And so if you're not monitoring those things, we're just guessing as you go along. What ends up happening is that something bad happens, or we get to a point where you're like, I've lost a lot of hair, or I have a lot of dark hair on my face, where it's just like slaps you in the face. But if you're looking for it and you're watching for it and you're charting it, and not every day, you can do this like once a week or something like that, just kind of check in and make sure you're going where you're supposed to go. Tracking your stuff is the way that we do things safely. So the safer you want to be, the more you have to be involved. So track it just a little bit more. So those are going to be some of the really important things that you guys need to do. If you're thinking about testosterone, if you're on testosterone, any of those type of things, check that out. Now, for you women who are taking testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone, I hate that. I think it's a terrible idea. However, if that's where you're at, that's where you're at, fine. If you're past menopause, if you're no longer there and you're spotting, it is most likely because of your progesterone. The job of progesterone is to increase blood flow to the uterus so that we can have viable pregnancies, which is one of the reasons that it's the number one thing to give women who have pregnancy issues or fertility issues, is because we want to increase blood flow, oxygen, nutrient supply to the uterus for baby. Now, if you're 50 or 47 or 40 and you're like, I'm done, I don't want any more kids, and you're on progesterone and you're spotting, talk to your doctor about either eliminating it or dropping those levels down, especially if you're also on estrogen. So check those out. Now, remember, testosterone converts into estrogen. So oftentimes you can get the levels of testosterone right and fix all the other problems. So it happens more often than not where we'll have a woman who has low testosterone, has hot flashes, night sweats, vaginal dryness, that type of thing. We give her testosterone, it converts over to estrogen. Her testosterone needs are met and her estrogen needs are met. The hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness go away. Now, again, numbers don't, I mean, yell for saying numbers don't matter, but numbers aren't the entire picture. Let's go that way. So if your estrogens as a woman is 45, but your hot flashes, night sweats, and vaginal dryness are completely gone, you don't need more. Like if you're not trying to have a baby, you don't need any more. So keep that in mind. Just because your numbers aren't where they were when you were 17 doesn't mean your numbers aren't where they need to be for you now. So as long as there's no symptomatology, you should be good. But write all this stuff down, check into it, give it to your doc. If your doc doesn't care about it, find another doc who cares. Because if you're charting your progress about the medications your doctor's giving you, or the therapies your doctor's giving you, or the advice your doctor's giving you, and they don't care, man, that's bad. That's bad. Like, I'm asking my patients to do this, and I'm not getting on them, but I'm like, this is going to help you. So if your doctor doesn't care when you give them information about how your care is happening to your body, you need to find another doctor, because apparently that doctor doesn't care about what's going on with you. So, but chart this stuff down. If nothing else, do it for yourself. If you're like, you know what, I feel better, but I have almost no downsides, and I feel like I could feel better, maybe you can come up. Do not alter your own dose. Don't do that. There's lots of reasons not to do that. One, the biggest reason is that these things are highly regulated, way over-regulated. This is one of those things that when George Bush decided he didn't want these things around, for whatever reason he decided they wanted to be illegal, that was a massive, massive hit to everybody's health. They're safe as long as you know what you're doing with them. However, don't go up in your dose, because if you get a certain dose, it's timed out. And so if you're like, oh, I'm taking 0.1, and then you're like, I'm going to go up to 0.2, you've now doubled the dose, which means it's going to last you half as long. So when you run out and you go back to your doc and you're like, I need more stuff, they're going to be like, no, your dose was set for a specific time and you didn't do it. So just talk to your doc and be like, hey, here's my sheet. I have no real side effects that are bothering me. These are at a 5 or a 6. I think I can go up a little bit. I'd like to go up a little bit on my dose and talk to them about it. That's the easiest way to do that. Always loop your doc in when you're doing these type of things. If you're not using a doc, I would recommend getting your blood pulled and talking to somebody who can get you through it. I do a lot of this. It's funny because there's a lot of people I work with where they supply their own hormones, and I just do their blood work and kind of talk to them about, balancing it nutritionally. So one of the other things that you need to keep in mind for any of you guys who are doing your own stuff, if you're doing Winstrol or Anavar, if you're doing some of these orals, and people talk about, oh my gosh, they're so bad for the liver. One of the reasons they get bad for the liver is genetics, and so that's hard to deal with. But one of the other major reasons is because you just put a supercharger on your engine, right? Lots more power, lots more stuff. We're pushing really hard, lots of anabolism, lots of androgens, lots of growth, lots of that stuff. You need to feed the liver more. Like, the reason it's starting to have issues, not every time, but a lot of the time, is it's running out of methylated B6. It's running out of the CoQ10, the NAD, the NAC. Like, it's running out of the chemicals it needs to do the job. This goes back to the conversation I have all the time about the eggs, right? You're baking a cake, lots of flour, lots of sugar. You run out of eggs, can't make any more cake, right? And so what you need to do is you need to make sure you have more eggs. So in this case, what we're talking about is you need to make sure that you've got more nutrients, more chemicals that your body uses, the reagents your liver, your body uses to do the processes it's doing. So if you sped up a process, right, by increasing androgens, you need to make sure the body has more fuel to do that job. And so that's just one of the things that we try to make sure you're doing. But watch that, because, cleaning the liver, feeding the liver, same thing. You want to make sure you're doing lots of that. So keep that up, but chart your stuff. Like, anything you're doing, like, write that, like, again, once a week. How do you feel in all sorts of areas? Like, Google side effects, Google, positives from testosterone, and make sure that you've got something for all of those things. And so when you're looking at it, you're like, oh, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, I'm getting lots of this, I'm getting some of that. And then talk to your doc about it, because a lot of times, we'll be able to fix those things. So that's the best thing I got for you. So should everything have fixed, we can talk about semaglutide tomorrow. It's a very interesting peptide. It is super powerful. It is really great, but anything that's powerful can do lots and lots of damage. So we'll go over some of the ways that we can prevent that damage tomorrow and hopefully keep you guys safe. Thanks for your time.